Oh, and we are live. Welcome back, everybody, to Behind the Tool Belt, episode 241. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday edition. Today, we have another special guest. Stay tuned, and we will be back after our short intro from our sponsors.
GC Packer. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. Roofing, siding, windows, gutters, solar. GC Packer, GC Packer.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this rainy Wednesday afternoon. Hopefully, you're catching us on your lunch break. And if not, don't forget to check us out on Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, and of course, Facebook, and all of that good stuff. And today we have another special guest, Adam McChesney. What's happening, my man? How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, man, me too. I'm grateful you're here. Like we touched on a little bit earlier. We ran into each other. I think the first time personally, face to face, met each other at RoofCon last year. I know we were both busy. I saw your booth was right behind ours. You were just as crazy busy as we were, and we just didn't get to connect. But I'm glad we did. Better late than never. You're doing a lot of cool things. I follow you on social media. You're always putting out really good free content for your viewers and your audience and stuff like that. And one of the topics I wanted to bring up today with you is personal brand and the importance of personal brand. And I've kind of been sort of a student of personal brand. I know enough to be dangerous and probably know a little more about it than the average Joe. But for someone like you that like studies this, like you definitely have been a student of personal brand, the importance of personal brand. And I think a lot of people get them confused between a professional brand and a personal brand. Why don't you dive a little bit into, the importance of having a personal brand and then differentiating the two, but why it's so important for both?
Yeah. So I'll actually take you back to my background. So I spent 5 years in medical device sales. And so the second company that I worked at was a company called ResMed. So the leader in the CPAP industry, those of you that probably have either got a sleep test done, have heard of that company, or use a CPAP, know that company. So I sold the masks, the CPAPs, and we started to sell ventilators right before the pandemic. And so I did that for 5 years, managed a territory of about $25 million here in the state of Missouri. And I realized that the rep before me and then the rep after, like people were buying ResMed. Because it's like when you have to get a CPAP machine, you have to go with one of the accredited manufacturers in order for insurance to get or for insurance to reimburse you. So like, yes, I was able to grow my territory. Yes, people ended up like knowing, liking, and trusting me. But when I left, like they were still going to use ResMed. So I transitioned into digital marketing full-time back in 2020. I got started in 2018 with Rank and Rent. I built 200 websites on my own and then flipped them as digital real estate. So a little bit different of a story than most people that get into digital marketing. Most of them don't go from medical device sales, then to Rank and Rent, then to digital marketing. But that's my story. And so I realized very quickly early on in 2020 that there's hundreds of thousands of competitors out there with digital marketing. And so the one thing that I had that was different than everybody else was my story, my name, my brand, and all of that stuff. So the importance of it, I would say in most industries, especially as things are going with social media, with a personal brand versus business brand, which we'll talk about here in a second, is that it's almost essential if you want to go and do something different at any point in your life, right? So like when I left the agency that I had been a part of, which is where you and I had originally met last year at RoofCon, if I didn't have that personal brand and I just left and I decided to go start a new business, which I did, if I didn't have that personal brand along the way, it would have taken a lot longer for me to go and get started with the next thing or have other opportunities. So the importance of a personal brand, I think, is essential in today's society because it opens up so many opportunities. And it opened up the opportunity for our digital marketing agency to grow from 0 to 7 figures in 15 months back in 2020 when we went full time. And so I wouldn't have been able to do that without a personal brand, and kind of how it differentiates from a business brand or from that holistic professional brand is that on the basis is people buy from people.
Mm-hmm.
So even though they see a company brand that's out there in most industries, right? Like if you're talking about Nike or Apple, people aren't buying from people there. But if we're talking about a roofing company, or we're talking about marketing, or we're talking about a coaching or consulting, like, yes, there is the brand name behind it, but it's the sales rep that is knocking on the door. It's the project manager. Everyone has their own personal brand that's then backed by a roofing company brand or a marketing brand. But if you're not taking full advantage of doing that, you're missing out on likely a lot of business and potential.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to describe it. And I think what I heard you say, and I don't know if I've actually, thought about it this way before, but it's like your personal brand followed you, right? You went from one industry to another industry. And like you touched on before, it's like people go with who they know, who they like, and who they trust. So
Yeah.
important whether you're in one industry or another, or decide to switch to a different industry, like that follows you.
Yeah.
Right. So let's dive a little deeper into like how that's impacted you professionally.
Yeah. So it's impacted me in multiple different aspects. So going back to 2020, we had all those websites that were out there. We ended up starting an auto glass company and a landscape design company in 2021, specifically from that digital real estate that I built starting back in 2018. And so we built a 7-figure company with the auto glass stuff. We've built more of a joint venture now with landscape design, but I've been able to become a serial entrepreneur because of the skill set I had with digital marketing and personal branding. But when I made a post about our auto glass company or about our landscape design stuff, I don't talk about it often. I still get leads coming in because people know that Adam McChesney is an owner of that auto glass company. So over the last couple of years, anything I've touched has now carried a different weight versus if I just tried to promote like if I just tried to say, hey, we're going to just post from the auto glass repair of STL's business Facebook page, but I'm not going to tell people Adam's behind it. No, when I post about that stuff now I have more of a weight behind that. I've also gotten equity in another local company because they're like, hey, Adam, your personal brand carries weight here in St. Louis. Plus, digital marketing. I want to give you equity in our company. But when I launched Builders of Authority, which is where I'm spending the majority of my time right now, back in November of last year, it had kind of been an evolution over 2 years of me speaking on stage. So I spoke on stage. I was teaching people how to build a personal brand and then to segue that from personal brand to directly growing your business. But I never had something to sell on the back end. So I ended up launching that after 2 years of people saying, hey, can you build a course, one-to-one coaching and mastermind? We did that in November. I stepped away from the marketing company in March 1st of this past year and kind of redesigned what we were doing and went back out on my own, did all of that stuff. But we have already done multiple 6 figures in less than 6 months of doing this now full time. But it wasn't that Builders of Authority was so better or different or unique than what we were doing in the marketing company. I had 4 years of a personal brand of people literally seeing me go out and practice what I preach on what I'm now teaching them.
Yeah. I was going to ask you too, like, how long do you think it took for you to build a personal brand? But I think you touched on that several times, between 2 to 4 years, I guess. I don't know if there's an average amount of time, but probably more importantly of like what you did to create that personal brand. Let's talk a little bit. I heard you say that, you did some speaking engagements on stages and stuff like that, but what other platforms and like what form of content and where were you posting that content for how long? Like, give us the whole spiel of how you galvanized that trust, that know, and that like from people.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started posting in August of 2020, and I posted twice a day, every single day on Facebook. That's really all I did. because I didn't even have an Instagram at the time. I was off of LinkedIn. I didn't have a YouTube channel. So that's where I started. And then I started to also do like one Facebook Live every single week. So it was more of like a training, I guess, if you will, than anything. But shorts and reels weren't around back then either. So I just did that. And then I added 5 new friends every single day. And so I got up to 5,000 friends. I started posting twice a day. And then about 90 days in, so like I literally told myself, because my mentor at the time said, do this for 90 days. At day 89, I signed my first deal at the digital marketing company directly related to personal branding. So somebody that I reached out and added, he was a local contractor that I connected with in a local Facebook group and was like, Adam, I've been following your stuff now for a couple of months. Let's go do business together. And so he ended up being a client for 3+ years and referred me a bunch of business. So it was that deal alone has been worth the energy and the resources and the time that I put into personal branding. But most people, when they get started, is they don't do it consistently for 90 days. So they'll do it for a week or maybe a month or maybe even 2 months. And then they're like, I'm not getting the return on investment back. Well, a lot of this stuff, personal branding, the organic stuff, I compare it all to like going to the gym. It's really tough to like say, hey, I'm going to go to the gym today and then I'm going to lose the direct weight or get the muscle or do whatever the result or get whatever the result is that I'm looking for. It's very tough. So I always look at it at like the long game. But why I transitioned a little bit into personal branding full time and with Builders of Authority is I really enjoy working with contractors has been like the whole world of what I've done for the last 4 years in the digital marketing side. But so many people want to go and they want to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on digital marketing stuff. And there's a time and place for digital marketing, 1000%. I'm a huge believer in that still tell people to go and do it. But they want to go from 0 to 100. They don't want to go for the low hanging fruit. So like at RoofCon this year, I'm literally talking a presentation to the sales reps as well as the owners of the company of saying, hey, you can go and start posting organically from your Adam, your Ty, your whatever personal pages. And you can start getting business in quicker than a marketer would, but you can't just talk about the widget or the project or the product you're selling. You have to incorporate a little bit about who you are individually. So that way people can understand that you're just a human as well. And so that's one thing that I did really, really well is I didn't spam. I didn't make a bunch of posts about the digital marketing, like typical stuff that people do. I was just myself and more people started to know, like, and trust me and then refer me. And then my business grew in the process.
Yeah, I love all of that. You nailed it. I think you touched on something, consistency. Okay.
Yeah.
Staying consistent is the biggest thing. Like you said, whether it's your health, working out, dieting, sleep, rest, educating yourself, reading, whatever the case might be, it's the long game that you talked about, and it's not wanting, we all want that instant gratification. Of course, I want to be able to take the magic pill and I want to have big muscles. I don't want to have to go to the gym every night and all these things, but it's that delayed gratification. You got to start somewhere and why not today? Right. Like you said, social media today is way different than it was 3 years ago, especially 10 years ago. When Facebook came out, like back then you could host what was called a watch party. We could reach tens of thousands of people by going live like this. Now today, algorithms change. Facebook wants to make more money, so they want you to pay for boost and things of all that nature. But the cool thing that you touched about, the reach that you can receive on your personal page is much greater than it is on a business page. I have learned that over the years.
Yeah.
Plus, you also touched on how it is important to show people that you're just a human being. You love your dog, you love your kids. And the thing that you do a lot of that I noticed is that you post a lot of vulnerable stuff. Like, I'm not having a good day today, but this is how I tried it, kind of, or this is how I did it. This is how I overcame it, and that's that real, genuine, authentic stuff that people realize that, you're not just spamming them. You're a human being. You suffer from all the woes and the ebbs and flows, just as anyone else does. And where I also agree. So fortunately, we did a Fearless 44 challenge several times. I don't even know how many I've done. Okay. I literally have done it 88 days straight in a row. But what's crazy about that is unintentionally, okay, I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do because I signed up for this challenge, and God forbid I fail the challenge. And if I do, I got to start over. Long story short is that more people were reaching out to me through Messenger for what it is that we do. They obviously know who I am, what we do. They even if I don't know them, they feel like they know me. Okay. So that's what was important about me just throwing out there, like, hey, I read something today and this is what it made me think, or it inspired me to do this, or hey, I'm not having such a great day, but what I did was I went home and did a cold plunge and I feel much better. Whatever my topics were, it was so crazy and so difficult to come up with something 44 days straight. But what it was the real me. It wasn't this person, spamming people. I'm a human being that's out here just trying to support my family and have an impact on our local community. And those were the things that meant the most to me, that was resonating with those that were watching me. We've gained more traction from my personal brand than anything else. Even this podcast, when we started this podcast almost 5 years ago, it was intended to plug our local charitable events, right? We didn't know how else to get it out there quick, instantaneous, that instant gratification. Long story short, it didn't happen as fast as we thought it was going to take off. We weren't very good at it. We were using iPhone 8 at the time, was our audio and our video platform that we were using. Thank God, for iPhones. And but we were gaining more traction the more that we did it. And that's the thing. I think most people are so afraid to smash that live button on this topic. Just smash it. Who cares what you look like or what you sound like? Just get yourself out there, get out in front of your local community, show them the impact, show them who you are. Give your children the shout outs, like, hey, if they got a diploma in something or whatever, just post all these things on your personal page. It doesn't have to be your business page or business profile or anything like that. But like you said earlier, if you decide to change industries, right, though that crowd of people that are following you now are going to follow you no matter what industry, even if you stay in the same industry, but they're going to follow you into wherever you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's so important. And David Bruno, who's a close friend of mine, he's in here, and he commented, personal brand, very important in today's marketplace. And he knows it. I met him. He worked for a company called Local IQ, which is USA Today network that owns probably at least 70 or 50% of all newspaper outlets and media platforms and stuff like that, is where I met him. But we've had this conversation about personal brand, and associating and holding that authority in our space. And that's what this podcast has actually become, is that we have the authority. If anybody Googles TC Backer or Ty Backer, they see episode after episode after episode of Behind the Tool Belt, or what Ty Backer's doing at food drives. All the things have been collectively collected on Google because of us posting it on YouTube. Let's talk a little bit about Google and SEO and YouTube and how that can affect. I'm sorry, I know I get excited. This is one of my most favorite topics, and there's probably I should have probably wrote down the 25 questions that I had in my mind that I wanted to ask you earlier, and I can only think of one of them right this moment. But let's talk about Google SEOs a little more deeper on the the reach that we can get people, but again, takes time to do. On the things that I was just talking about, like when people Google Ty Backer or Ty Backer, I have 10 pages of things that over the past decade and a half that it's taken me to build that up. Not many people can Google their own name and have page after page after page after page of content show up on Google. How do you do that? How can you become that?
Yeah. So in the whole grand scheme of personal branding, there are so many different lanes that you can play in. So you have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have YouTube, you have podcasting. I'm writing my first book right now, so that's obviously an avenue as well. You have speaking at other people's events. There's so many different like avenues that you can go down, PR obviously being another one. And so the more and more that you do this stuff, I tell everybody, whether you're doing SEO or you're doing digital marketing for your roofing company, or you're doing it for like the Adam and Ty brand, is you're basically building digital real estate. Right? Like this stuff is not going to go away. And so I had somebody reach out to me that had been following me on YouTube for like 18 months on a very, very specific video. And then he finally just saw another video of mine that resonated with him and he reached out for some consulting stuff. And so when that stuff is out there, it's like evergreen content. When it's the long form video, when it's the podcasting stuff. So you are truly building out like this whole Rolodex that you used to have to go and you used to have to shake so many more hands, do so many more things in person. But there's two different ways that people are searching. They're searching obviously for the brand, the individual, the company, but they're also searching for a specific topic, right? So like YouTube in itself is now a massive search engine. Chat GPT is turning into some of that. There's competitors of Chat GPT that are turning into more of that AI-based search engine. So the more information that the internet has about all these different places that you're going to do, the better. But one of the things is, and so I always tell people, like, if you're going to start anywhere, start with Facebook. It's probably the easiest place to go. It's the easiest platform to like truly understand. There's so many different things you can do on there, but Facebook has always driven about 90% of my overall lead flow in any business I've ran from a marketing or advertising standpoint. But what people always tell me is, Adam, it's not just Facebook, it's the compound effect. They'll go to Instagram, they'll go to YouTube, they'll go to Apple Podcasts, and then they'll go to TikTok, and they see my stuff over there too. So I always tell people is start with one thing, right? But don't just be a one-trick pony, because you don't necessarily know where your ideal client is always going to be spending their time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. It's touch points, right? You want to show up where everybody is where they're at, whether that's and I call it internal marketing to me is digital content, right? Whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on TikTok, all that stuff. As a roofing company, we also have what I call exterior branding, which would be, yard signs, truck wraps, billboards, things of that nature. But what you're trying to create is like this digital footprint. Like, and I love how you mentioned real estate, because that's such a cool way. The more I think about that, like we're creating this landscape, right? That's not going anywhere. And if anything, it's building a legacy for yourself that way. And that's a totally different topic. But like if someone's searching a certain topic, and I like how you said that, whether it's Google or YouTube, we're hoping that we show up. And that's intentional of like why we're doing that. Like yes, we're doing this because it's fun. Yes, we want to impact people's lives. And that's another topic that we'll probably want to talk about here shortly. In the passion of why you do what you do is not necessarily for you, but for everybody else. Hence why we do this podcast as well, is to educate and inspire people's lives. But it's those digital touch points, but not and the traditional way of marketing things as well too. I was just the craziest thing. So I went and got my hair cut this morning, and Matt the barber. Okay, love the guy. He's a great dude, old school barber. He's got the shears and stuff out well. There was an older gentleman that was in there before I went in there, and they're having this conversation. So I'm kind of earshotting it a little bit. And basically, the long of the short of it is that this older gentleman must have been in charge of some type of organization that promotes the local carnival. And Matt was like, "Yeah, I haven't seen a flyer in here for years." And I thought the importance of that old school traditional, whoever used to create these flyers and hand them out to local businesses. So Matt could put it on the pole in the middle of the barber shop. And then Matt was like, yeah, they should be at the meat market because there's a meat market across the street. I'm from small town America, so we got the old school barber shop and the meat market across the street, and then the Hakes grocery store down the street. Like, how the importance of, because I think sometimes we get, especially contractors, whether it's landscaping or roofing or HVAC, the importance of posting your stuff on a tangible, billboard, or not the billboard, but the pin board before you walk into a grocery store, or your, a little flyer taped to the glass door as you walk in, just as another touch point, because not all people, let's face it, yes, the millennials is the largest generation of population that we've ever seen in the world, but there are also people out there that may not be on social media, but more importantly, everybody goes to the grocery store. Everybody goes to get their hair cut. Everybody goes to the meat market. So why not throw another touch point up? I mean, if that's your targeted audience, and that's another thing that we can talk about too, is how to identify your customer. But I wanted to throw that out there because I think a lot of people sleep on the yard signs, the billboards, the truck wraps, and other forms of marketing and branding, and even personal brand. I mean, if a governor or somebody is running for office, I don't know how many billboard signs I see along the highway, vote whatever, whoever their name is. Like, that still works. But let's talk about, I'm sorry, I'm kind of, again, marketing, branding, personal brand. Like, I love this topic. It gets me excited. And this is what I eat, live, and breathe in this part of the business today. It's kind of like I kind of labeled it as my job, because I there for a second, this whole nother topic too. But like, I was having trouble identifying what the hell my job was anymore, because everybody around me is so good at what they do. So I chose marketing anyhow. But personal brand. But let's shit. I lost my train of thought of what my question was going to be for you. The digital real estate. But that lasting impression. Okay. So let's start here. How do you stay ahead of these trends? Okay. Because algorithms change, platforms change, new platforms come out all the time. Somebody in the position that educates contractors like myself, which I could probably use some from you. How do you stay ahead of all of the trends? I mean, things are changing all the time. Google's changing all the time. AI is coming out to help you with SEOs and things like that. Like, how does an individual like yourself keep your game sharp in order to articulate a message to, one, your clients, and two, educate your clients?
So I think it goes back to the consistency piece is if you're not consistent in practicing what you preach, it's really tough to stay ahead of the curve, because yes, there's people that are out there that are like the industry experts, and they're, up with all the industry trends and everything like that. And they're foreseeing, hey, this algorithm change is coming. This new feature is getting added. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times I'm on these platforms so much that I see something and I'm like, why haven't I heard about this yet? Well, sometimes they literally just throw it in there and nobody knows about it yet. But because the people that are even reporting on it aren't reporting on it until it's like a mass news piece, right? And so I think the biggest thing is just being consistent with it, and then being willing to go test things out and learn. Mm-hmm. So like I tell my students inside of our community all the time, is like, one of my jobs is to fail so much so that way you don't have to, because that's what you're paying me to do, is you want to get ahead of the curve. Well, the only way I can help you get ahead of the curve is if I fail first, or if I test this stuff out before me. So like, we just brought on a video editor to be able to go do more videos than ever before. We just brought on a social media strategist to have more strategy behind it. So like, I have to be 4 and 5 steps ahead of the people that I'm teaching and educating, because at any point, whether it's consulting, coaching, working with a marketing agency, any of those types of things, is you should always be helping and you're best suited to help like the previous version of yourself. Now, that's not to say that I can't go help someone that's ahead of me or vice versa, right? But usually it's in a specific like lane. Hey, I can go help this person ahead of me because they really need SEO help, and I've had more SEO experience than they've had, or whatever it might be, just using that as an example. So going and being ahead of the curve. So then that way you are able to pass that information back along is just super, super key, at least for me, to not just continue to build the know, like, and trust, but to keep people around in an ecosystem, an ever-changing environment. Because this can get really frustrating if you're like, wow, I feel like I just got momentum here with this one platform, with this one algorithm, and then all of a sudden it changes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I know for a fact that we've experienced that ourselves where, what used to work, is no longer working, or we're not getting the reaction or impact from, what we, and Google changes all the time. And like you said, they may or may not launch or advertise, like, hey, we're changing this, and you just got to stay consistent with it, going back to consistency. But let's talk a little bit about like what you do for individuals. Like I know you coach, I know you mentor. I know you help business owners leverage their personal brand, and let's talk like, do you have a course? Do you have a mastermind? And also let's talk a little bit about your the BOA Live a little bit. That I'm really interested in hearing about, like what your intentions were about hosting that, and if you're going to do it again sometime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of our flagship platform is our mastermind. So it's a group setting. We have calls on Monday and Wednesday. Both of those are at 2 p.m. Central Time. And it's an opportunity for our community members to come together. Monday's focus is primarily Q&A. So like, you come, you meet with our team, you meet with the rest of the community, and you ask questions about personal branding, business branding, anything and everything that comes with creating content in social media. And then on Wednesdays, it's more of like a specific training. So last Wednesday, we were super hyper focused on how to grow your business via being a member inside of an ideal client Facebook group. Today, we're talking about the 3 different types of events that I would go to as an attendee, as a speaker, and as a sponsor, and kind of what I'm looking for, or what I'm looking to get out of all of those events based on those different criteria pieces. So I'm taking my experience, my overall just knowledge base, and passing it along to our members, and they're kind of helping guide those trainings. But with that, you do get access to an additional course, a private Facebook group, and then one-to-one accountability with my executive assistant. So you get a couple of extra calls every single month. We do have a free course, and I can pop that course here in the link. So it's a free course, basically 7 steps to a $1 million business with personal branding. So if anybody's interested, feel free to also just shoot me a message, and I can get you that course as well. But it started out as that group mastermind. We've thrown in a course, and then I do take on some one-to-one clients as well. So if there are people that are like, hey, Adam, I really have this specific goal. I want to go get more stages. I want to go be on more podcasts. I want to become the authority for X, Y, and Z. We put a plan together in order to make that work. But then I also go train in, like, probably one of the biggest things we're doing right now is we're going into roofing companies, training both the CEO, but then also the sales reps on this stuff as well. Because again, it's an interesting time where marketing is more expensive than it's ever been before. And if you can drive down those costs and increase lead flow by just posting organically on social media, that's what we're finding. And we're finding a lot of the larger companies that have like, hey, we're trying to spend more money on Google. We're trying to do more stuff over here. But if the demand isn't there, you have to also go create the demand and pour gas on the fire. So those are some of the main things that we're doing.
Man, that's great. That's great. So let's talk about BOA Live. I saw that Mike Claudio was there,
Yep.
and a couple other great speakers and stuff like that. So was that more of a wide variety of just leveling up somebody's, not just their personal brand, but their company in general? Is that, has your paradigm shifted a little bit on, trying to just impact people's businesses and lives and things like that? Because I saw that you had quite a few different types of speakers there. Like what's your goal with the live?
Yeah, so we threw 2 events this year. So we did one in March and one in June. We had about 50 people at the first event and closer to 70 people at the second event. The idea is I wanted to facilitate a place where I could bring in people that are in my network that have a specific skill set that will help someone in their personal brand journey. Now, through their personal brand, could their business, of course, be impacted, or their business impact their personal brand? 1000%. And so that's kind of where we shifted from the first event to the second event. The first event was like, no, it's just personal branding. The next event, we kind of brought in more generalization stuff that could have gone for personal branding and could have gone for business branding. So we don't have any events planned throughout the rest of this year. We probably will do something virtual, but kind of where my mind is going with a lot of this stuff is, as I've exited or in the process of continually exiting the marketing agency from earlier this year, is that people are still, I'm not going to say I'm on the forefront of personal branding, but a lot of people are talking about it, but nobody's really going and actively teaching and doing what we're doing. So I'm having to do so much education and like upfront, I guess, market specific industry stuff that I see a void here in the interim, as well as long-term, to be able to throw more business branding stuff into our community. Mm-hmm. And so that's where we're going to be evolving for as well, because a lot of this stuff, if you think about it, the same principles apply. Algorithms, of course, are completely different, whether you're a personal Facebook page or a business page. But so we're trying to figure out, where can we meet people where they're at, still get them the knowledge and the information, the education they need without missing the boat.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like how you said too about, trying to keep cost down, because I mean, personally have thrown tens of thousands of dollars at Google and they don't even use it. Right. They don't even spend it. It's there, but they don't even use it. Right.
Yep.
And you try to find that silver bullet in that, it's tough, and what we found that helps us is that organic content that we put out there. So not just what I'm doing, but like what our sales force is doing, right? They're getting testimonials from homeowners. They're getting reviews from homeowners. Like they have become our marketing platform, I guess, for lack of better terms, where our team goes out. They're the ones screaming from the rooftops, like, hey, TC Backer, they're great. You should, use our products. But what has really been cool is that we've created a following of past, current, and clients that are also now become big fans of, because of the charitable events that we host in our local communities, and we involve them, we include them, we bring them out. They know that a certain percentage of the job will go towards something to impact the local community. So there's definitely ways that you can get creative, but I think what happens over time, and when you get in a position, whether it's a maturity thing or if it's a financial thing, where at least for me, where my train of thinking, yes, when I first got into business, it was like, okay, we got bills to pay and I got to earn money and my family's got to eat, right? So you get over that hump, right? You get over that hump, and then the revenue starts coming in, the bills are somewhat caught up, and you start bringing other people in, you start delegating other tasks to other people. And what's cool about it is, and if you can look at it like this, like, cause, I think on one of your, podcasts that you were on that I was listening to was, you were talking about, once you were able to start letting go of certain things and delegating tasks, your company, exponentially started to grow. Okay. The cool thing about what went through my mind when I heard you say that, like you went from like 30K a month to 100K a month, and that's a substantial growth. Okay. But the cool thing is the impact that you had on that individual when you brought them into your organization that helped you do that. So the catch, I don't even know if it's a catch 22 or if it's the paradox is the moment that I start to let go, the business starts to grow, but the impact that we have on those individuals that we bring into our organization, right? And empower them to make decisions and leverage their talents. And then what happens then, the business starts to mushroom into even a bigger where then they have to start delegating some of their tasks because they may have started to create a bottleneck like we do as business owners. We create a bottleneck and we can only generate so much revenue ourselves. But once we get that mushroom effect happening where, one job just created 2 more jobs, and then the impact that it has on those individuals, and then start focusing your attention on the community and the impact that you're having on the community is where all of this gets threaded together. Okay. Yep. I heard of, where the know, the like, and trust comes in. Okay. Because they're out and about. Yeah. My nephew works there, or did they really take care of him? Or, hey, I want to come work for that company that's deep frying 80 turkeys the night before Thanksgiving, and all these things. Right. So it's helped us. It's helped us recruit people. It's helped us retain people, internally. And it's like then the company and those that work, our teammates and our co-leaders actually start to become the brand of the company. Okay. When you can let go and you're not concerned that somebody that works for you is actually doing, because I can see where other people would be upset that if someone's trying to create a brand under the brand, but you need to allow that to happen in order for the company to grow. It's just one of those things where you just kind of got to let go. Okay. Yeah. And let the people that you hired, smart people, let them do smart people stuff. Right. But let them help you grow the brand as well too. I'm trying to wrap this up here, but I'm trying to think about like how we've been able to do it. And some of it was strategic and some of it hasn't been so strategic, and some of it's been by accident and happenstance. But what has happened is the more that I was able to let go and allow the company to grow and allow the people around me to grow the company, they've been able to attract more people that want to come work for us, and they've been able to retain those that they brought into the organization. But most importantly, they've been able to attract a good clientele of people that have become a network where 50% of the leads that are coming in are basically just referrals from other people that we've done work for. And it's pretty cool when you can get that method, that rhythm rather, going. And again, it doesn't take 3 months of, one Facebook Live. It takes sometimes hundreds of, not just for me, but everybody else within the organization, of tagging their co-workers in a post of like, hey, this is Mrs. Joan. Let's welcome Mrs. Joan to the TC Backer family because they just got a lifetime roof on their home today. And everyone applauses, everyone likes, loves it, comments, and shares it to all their platforms.
Yep.
So it's kind of cool how it works when you stay consistent. The other thing is not just consistency, but willing to take a risk, right? I heard you talk about like, don't be afraid to try new things, and not just for you, but those that are listening, don't be afraid to try different things. And just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean that it didn't work. Maybe they just haven't thought about it, or for whatever reason, like there's a lot of things that we've done that a lot of people may not have thought of doing. Hey, Fearless 44. Okay. For any business owner out there, if that gave me the reason to do 44 lives in 44 days, that impact alone, and I wasn't pushing anything, circling back to that, I wasn't pushing anything other than the fact that I was just getting out there and being very vulnerable and explaining to, like, maybe I was on a job site one day, maybe one day I was fishing. Maybe one day I was with Vic and we were taking a walk together and we were talking about the things that we were working on with, behind the tool belt and things like that. And it's just crazy because now that video has created a digital landscape, because now that's out there. If anybody searches TC Backer, anybody searches Vic, anybody searches behind the tool belt, or let's just say roofing or whatever the topic was that we were talking about, guess what's going to pop up in YouTube, or what's going to pop up on Google? It's going to be us just talking about, the diet that we're on, and just so happen that we do roofing.
Yeah.
And that's just another touch point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a full spectrum of like compounded effect. I think people like with marketing and advertising, you always want to know to the best of your ability what your return on investment is. Like that's a no-brainer. But with some of the stuff that isn't so, hey, I put dollars in, I get dollars out, you have to take some of this stuff and paint a brush across of it of like, hey, does this actually affect and play into the bigger picture? Right. And I think that's where so many people get it wrong is it's not even the instant gratification. Yes, that's a play in it, but they're like, no, I can't put a specific number on it. I can't do all those different things, but you got to think about the long-term impact. And especially if you're in an industry like roofing, yes, it's great if you make a post or you do a live or X, Y, and Z happens and somebody is in need of a roof and they reach out to you immediately. That's easily trackable. Mm-hmm. But what isn't so trackable all the times is if they don't need a roof. But let's just say a year down the line, a storm happens or just something happens and they do need your help. If you stop showing up, if you stop doing all the things that you should have been doing time and time again, you're going to be forgotten just as quickly as they originally knew who you were for a couple of seconds.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. And it's not, like you said, it's for the long game too. You got to just stay consistent with it because they might not need your services today, but in 6 months or 6 years from now, they will. But since you stayed out in the forefront of their mind in one way, shape, or form, at some point in time, it will come to fruition. And I think so many people want to quit 5 minutes before the miracle happens. They don't see that instant gratification right away. And it's like they give up on things. And I think that's where I was trying to talk about, like, take that risk, just put yourself out there and get out in front of the community and let them know who you are and why you're here and the impact that you're trying to have. And I think they'll see that authenticity, right? Like, I'm really here to try to impact the community's lives. I'm really here to try to impact those that work with me to try to create this machine. That way we can go out there, and it wouldn't matter if we sold tires or if we sold whatever we just happen to be in the roofing industry, and it's been the vehicle for us to be able to get out there and impact other people's lives. You know, whether it's those that come to work here that can buy, they're on their second home now, or those homeowners that needed a roof, right? And roofing just happens to be a part of people's shelter. And it's one of the most important things that cover people's, probably most prized possession or their most valuable possession. Just happens to be that roofing found me one day 20, 30 years ago. And that's just what we're selling today is shingles. But I guess my point from earlier's conversation is just as long as your intentions are good and pure, right? You're going to be successful at no matter what it is that you're doing, but you got to get out there and let people know what it is that you're doing. Mm-hmm. But don't jam it down their throat so much, and then just stay consistently out in front of, like this podcast. We were so horrible at it, and I'm still probably horrible at it, but I've noticed over the years of watching myself of how many less ands and ums I say today than I did 4.5 years ago is crazy, because I've just been consistent, not necessarily super intentional about like, hey, I need to stop saying ands and ums, because I'm sure I still say a lot of them, but it doesn't stand out as much. And I feel like I can articulate my message better than I could the first time I smashed a live button. And it's because of consistency and in it for the long game. And our intentions were pure when we started this. It was all about impact. All of it was about impact. We built gazebos and we were auctioning them off, and we just needed to know people. We needed people to know what we were doing and where we were hosting this. And then when we got there, we decided to go live. And when we were there, we realized we were reaching more people outside of the arena that we were at, opposed to those that were coming through the door. And it was like, wow, this is crazy on the amount of people that we're reaching right now through social media, social commerce. Right? By hitting the live button consistently, people know me that I don't even know. They know me by first name. They know the good, the bad, the ugly. And the podcast has gone. It was my wedding day. I've been laying in hospital. It didn't matter. We've never missed a Wednesday afternoon episode. 241 episodes. And that's not even counting. I'm not trying to brag. I'm trying to solidify and galvanize my point. Is that over time, repeatedly, consistently, like we have a following of people that know that we always start 5 minutes late. It's kind of funny. We will not start at 12 o'clock. It'll be 12:05 when we get started. The one time that we started on time, they got pissed off because they missed the first 5 minutes of the show.
That's awesome.
But that's because of being consistently late.
Yeah.
As crazy as it is, but that's all about consistency. So if you're going to start a bicycle shop, a laundromat, whatever it is, social media is definitely that you can get some instant gratification from it, but you got to stay consistent with it. Google's changing all the time. You touched on AI. If you're not getting on the boat for AI, and this is information for our viewers that might be watching now or catch it on the replay, but AI, when it comes to SEO or your website and things like that, like if you're not getting on board with that stuff, if you're stuck in that old mindset, or you tried it for like 2.3 seconds and it didn't work, you're fooling yourself. Like, to stay ahead of the curve, and that's what big businesses are doing right now. Companies that may have been around for a while, they're getting on board. The Renewals by Anderson and all those companies. Don't think that they're not doing. Yes, they do direct mail, but they're also, their website, they have smart people behind the scenes that they've hired to enforce, hey, AI is the way to go. These are all things that we need to, as business owners, not get set in our ways or kid ourselves because it didn't work in 2.3 seconds. We need to listen to those like Adam, my friend here, Adam, who's ahead of the curve already, who's in the trenches, making the mistakes, so we don't have to make the mistakes. And out there and pouring your heart out to contractors, to entrepreneurs, to sales teams, all those great people. Let's get a little personal here real quick before we get off here. For you, and I kind of touched on my pivotal moment. Like, when was that pivotal moment for you where it was like, you know what, this is my calling, right? This is what I want to do. I want to make an impact in this specific industry. You talked about there's a void, there's a gap in personal brand. When and where was that pivotal moment? Were you sitting at a conference? Were you laying in bed one night and you woke up and you're like, holy shit, I got to do something about this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew my marketing company where I was at previously. Like, I ran my own agency, became a franchise of an agency, became a partner in the whole agency. Like, I did all this stuff. We made a bunch of money, hundreds and hundreds of clients, the Inc. 5000s awards, all the stuff that like I thought was super important to me wasn't. Mm-hmm. And so I realized the bigger direct impact that I was having in a group mastermind setting, in a one-to-one coaching setting, in a whatever you want to call it, throwing a live event setting, all those different things. And so a lot of that started to really transpire after we had our first son, Murphy. So he was born in September of 2023. I decided in October to start doing the build out of the Builders of Authority stuff and then launch it in November. And so I guess all that to be said is like a life event, like becoming a father, having a kid, all those different types of things matched with what's most important. I realized at the time that like I couldn't be the father that I want to be and wanted to be, and the husband and all of those things, continuing to go run and do what I was doing in this marketing agency. And so I saw that matched with the bigger impact that I could have by doing what we're doing with Builders of Authority. And I jumped all in March of this year.
Wow. No, that's beautiful. Because usually there's something that happens, to all of us visionaries, I guess, for lack of better terms, where we have that pivotal moment. And sometimes it's the birth of a child. Sometimes it's a passing of a loved one. And for me, that's what happened, right? I chose my grieving was probably a little different than most people's, grieving process. My mom had passed away. This year would be 10 years. And about 10 years ago, I started to really think about like what she did and the impact that she had on me and the community and stuff, and chose to pick up the torch and kind of run with it and fill her shoes and pass on, continue her legacy of, being that kind-hearted, community oriented person. And my life really started to change when I started to obsess so much about like the business and the revenue and the bottom line and things like that. And don't get me wrong, my heart, I was, people say, there are born leaders out there. Yes and no. I mean, you got the qualities of it, but fortunately it's a skill that you get to work on. Right. So the way that I ran the organization 10 years ago is night and day compared to the way that the organization is ran today. Okay. And a lot of that has to do with giving back what has been so freely given to me, right?
Yeah.
The knowledge, the things that I see, the content that I've taken in and stuff like that. And I've come to realize that it's doing nobody but myself any good unless I teach what I've been so freely taught myself, whether it be from, my parents or a conference that I've gone to. And don't get me wrong, there is some type of, monetary cost to some of that, but it was really like this right now. The information that you fed us today was just free. Right. And now we have this platform that we can throw it out there and hopefully inspire and, and hopefully someone's aspired to do something with this content. But that's where that pivotal point for me was actually right before she passed. She said two things to me. To me at that time was very profound, but we hear these two mantras or sayings every single day. And the first thing she said to me is Ty, life's too short. And then the second thing she said to me is that I needed help. And boy, she wasn't wrong. She just didn't know what kind of help I needed at the time. But it was 7:30 at night. Here she is. She's struggling with cancer, the second bout with it. And I had my phone on me, of course, because everything ran through my phone at that time, whether it was the leads that came in, everything, because everything came through my phone. 7:30 at night. And I never red buttoned anybody. And I just couldn't do it. Right. I was already beating myself up, because I've been killing myself at work, and Jana, God bless my wife, was at home taking care of my mom. And so I felt like, I was burning the candle at both ends and not spending enough time with either, my family or my mom at the time. So here was 7:30 at night. And I was like, I forgot to give somebody an estimate. I red buttoned it, and she must've just saw this look of defeat, come over me. And that's when she said that to me. So at that moment, I realized life was too short, obviously, because as I'm looking at a dying woman sitting across the table from me. But what really stood out to me at that particular moment is that I needed to go on a mission to start delegating some of the tasks that the 15 tasks that I was doing. And I talk about this all the time. I should probably do a breakout on it. That created 12 full-time jobs, literally 40 hours a week. And at this point in time, I was mediocre and failing probably at half of them, but mediocre at the rest. I couldn't exceed in any facet of my life, whether personally or professionally at that time. But the moment I started to let go of things and delegate things, and not that we didn't have a team, but they were just waiting outside my door for me to tell them what to do. I didn't train them or teach them or coach them on how to think for their own, think for themselves. Rather, I coached them on how to think, but not what to think. And when I started to let go of things and empower them to make, decisions and not to drag this out any further, but I've learned too, the most powerful things I can say to somebody within the organization is just two words. You decide. You decide. Go ahead. You make the decision. Right. And that empowerment in itself is powerful for an individual to hear that. But anyhow, what a great episode. I think we're just about at our 1 hour mark here. Before we get off though, real quick, is there something that you want to share after all the conversation that we had? Is there something in a nutshell that you would like to share, a gold nugget with our viewers and listeners right now before we get off here?
Yeah, it's something that I share with a lot of different people is personal branding can be confusing, I guess, if you think if you have one or you don't have one or all those different things. Everyone's got a different definition. What I tell everybody is whether you know it or not, you have a personal brand. And that personal brand is essentially what other people think about you when you're not in the room. And that could be a good thing. That could be a bad thing. It could be everything in between. But ideally, if you run a business or you're a sales rep at a company and you want people to think about what Adam or Ty or whoever you are does, then that's a benefit where the personal brand ties back into that. So I like to think people think of me in a positive light. They think I'm giving. They think in all the things that you have shared and talked about with my content and things like that. But he also does X, Y, and Z.
And so when other people talk about me, they're usually talking also about my business. And so my business grows in the process. And so a lot of people think, oh, I don't want a personal brand, or I don't have a personal brand, or I don't know how to start one. Like, you already have one. It's time to take advantage of it if you haven't done so already.
Love that. I love that. What a great message for everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Adam, thank you, dude. Like this was a really good this was a good show, man. This will definitely go down in the books for one of the top 5 episodes we've done, and that's saying a lot because we've done a lot of these things. So thank you so much. Let's stay in touch, and everybody out there listening, if you haven't liked, loved, shared, subscribed to any of our platforms that we're streaming on, please do that. Please share this with your friends, your family. If there's somebody out there that you think that might get something from this content, please share this with them. Adam's contact information will be in the comments in there, so if anybody wants to reach out to him and step up their game in their personal brand, by all means. I validate what Adam does. I know he's been around our industry for a while, and only good things have been said. And I've seen a lot of his work. So check him out over there. Vic will post that in the comments later. But you guys, till then, we'll see you guys next week for episode 242 of Behind the Tool Belt. Till then, take care of each other. Thank you.